Menendez Brothers Reddit discussions.
I don't know how people ever thought Lyle looked creepy. I noticed that in the past, people made comments about his sociopathy based on his appearances. How creepy and chilling he supposedly looked, how he had dark eyes, how he looked like pure evil in human form, LO. It's just funny to me because even if I thought he was a sociopathic cold-blooded killer based on other factors, I wouldn't think he actually looked creepy. Even some cold-blooded killers have appearances that are deceiving. Not that I think he is a cold-blooded killer, LOL. He didn't look like a cold, emotionless monster, and I think he came across as kind of sweet and sort of childlike at times. He just looked like a normal guy who I would feel comfortable approaching and talking to. Some people just from their appearances can seem intimidating and scary, but that wasn't the case with him, Mo. Even when he would just sort of blankly stare ahead at the trials, it looks just like daydreaming or dissociating to me. I remember when I first learned about this case a few years ago, I saw people kept talking about how scary Lyle looked and how he was so evil. And then I started watching the trial and looking into the case and I was like, that's Lyle? I remember at first getting confused between Lyle and Eric, LOL. Just BC, I thought Eric looked older. It's like how my brother's girlfriend watched Monsters and just thought Netflix Lyle had a creepy aura about him, which I kind of agree with, at least compared to real life Lyle. Imo Netflix Lyle came across, even just based on his mannerisms and his overall energy, as cold, intimidating, and kind of creepy at times. But then she looked into the actual case and was like, oh, the real life Lyle doesn't seem as creepy.
I don't think either of them look creepy, but Lyle has a natural resting bitch face, so that can make someone look off-putting. Me personally, Lyle looks more approachable and less intimidating than Eric.
I don't see how people came to that conclusion. They obviously know nothing about the case. Lyle, to me, has always appeared to be compassionate, kind, and courageous. He also seems to be a very empathetic individual who is willing to go above and beyond for his loved ones. There was a great comment where somebody said that Lyle is a brother not only to Eric but to everyone. That's the kind of vibes I get from Lyle. That he cares deeply, and this is evident in all the good he has done for other incarcerated men.
It's insane to call his eyes evil. I'll never understand it either. He has brown eyes, 50% of the population has them. It's just easy for people to resolve in their own heads, oh, he killed his parents, he's gotta be a psychopath, look at his eyes. It's ludicrous. None of us obviously know him personally, but I think through watching his whole testimony direct and cross, you really get a sense of who he is as a person. Also testimony of many witnesses including some prosecution. I can't stand the version of him on Monsters, can't stand it.
I always thought Lyle looked very sad. I never saw the psychotic demeanor. I genuinely just wanted to give him a hug. Eyes are the window to the soul, and I thought he had an incredible amount of sadness in his eyes.
It's BCPO love to project onto him. Even after detainment, he maintained some baby fat in his face. He always looked youthful up until his mid-20s, Imo.
He doesn't look creepy at all to me. I could think of only one instance when he looked intimidating, and that was the very first second court appearance in 1990. They both had sort of an arrogant/frat boy vibe to them, but I just see it as a defense mechanism. When they opened up during the testimonies, both seemed like very nice, kind people. And also Monsters made Lyle look absolutely terrible. He has a very complex personality that was shown in a very superficial way.
He has a very complex personality that was shown in a very superficial way. This. Well said. I really despise how the mainstream media depicted him in the 90s and how some clowns on YouTube continue spreading lies about him.
To me, Lyle looks so kind, especially when he smiles. I hate Donovan, but his testimony made me cry for a while because I was proven that his kindness surpasses his gorgeous features. He's a good person with human flaws, and any person who claims otherwise is simply projecting or has never done their research on the case.
This isn't looks related, but the monotone voice really didn't help.
He has a monotone voice when he's on the stand, but in the tape recordings by Norma, he has so much more life to his voice. I think he's just extremely focused while up on the stand, so his voice then becomes monotone.
I thought he looked sad and stressed.
It's quite weird. I recently rewatched some of his cross-examination, and gosh, the whole time I just keep thinking was a sweet young man who made the biggest mistake of his life with his brother. And it's so clear they are lying about the abuse and what happened. The prosecutor tried to trick them so many times, and it didn't work.
They both come across as incredibly kind, gentle, and intelligent men. They're also both incredibly handsome, and I admire them for being so generous and caring after what they've been through.
I see his eyes as weary and sunken, at least during the first trial. Even as a kid, he rarely smiled with his eyes, and probably for obvious reason, of course. I believe this should have been one of the first signs of abuse. It doesn't help that he has dark eyes and dark hair, which plays into the stereotype of the villain or the bad seed child, especially in contrast to Eric, who has more emotion behind his bright blue eyes to match his soft, curly brown hair. Lyle was trained, beaten, and raped to not display any emotion or vulnerability, and you can see how he perfected that throughout most of the trial, until he had to take the stand. So, of course, the media is going to turn into the monster for their narrative.
I've always thought the opposite. He has a very brooding, intelligent face to me that clearly displayed emotion during the trial. He looks like a nice guy. People just see a heavier brow and darker eyes compared to his brother and run with it.
The media will do anything to make an interesting story. The prosecution was no better. There are some videos where you can see that they look traumatized, for lack of better term. It's in their eyes. Nothing about either of them seemed creepy or scary to me.
Yes, those dark, dead eyes, also known as brown LMFAO.